Welcome back to this video, grade 12s. In this video, we're going to take a look at question 3 of this question paper. They tell us that we've got an equation for f of x, and then we need to determine this fraction over here. And they tell us that this is the average rate of change of f over the given interval, and then they ask us to simplify our answer. So the first thing that we should notice is that we need f of x plus h. So that means that we are going to substitute the x plus h into the original equation in all of the places of x. Then we need to simplify this. So we can go and multiply out the bracket, or you can use the shortcut. So the shortcut is square the first term times the two terms with one another, and then times 2, and then square the last term. Or you could just write out the bracket twice and then FOIL out the brackets or multiply out the brackets. But this is going to save you 2 steps. And then we can multiply in the negative 2. And then we've got f of x plus h. So now we're going to get back to what the question asked. The question asked us f of x plus h, which we now can sub in, minus the original equation. Now the big trick here is to substitute in brackets, just to make sure that when you multiply out this negative, that the signs will be correct. So in this step, normally when we do first derivative, then all the terms without an h needs to cancel out. So this negative 2x squared and this positive 2x squared is going to cancel out, and then the negative 2 and the plus 2 at the back there. So remember, when you multiply in that negative into the brackets, the signs will change. And then that leaves us with these terms, and we can see that all of them have an h. Usually, again, when doing first derivative, we now take out the common factor, so we do exactly the same over here. And then the common factor can cancel out, and this leaves us with negative 4x minus 2h. And because this question didn't have the limit of h moving closer to 0, and it didn't specifically ask us for the first derivative, we are now going to stop there for this part of the question. And that's our final answer. In the next part of this question, it now says hence, which means we got to use what we just did in the previous question, and we got to determine the limit of h moving closer to 0. Now that is where we are going to do first derivative. So at the moment, we have got for the limit of h moving closer to 0, the negative 4x minus 2h. And then for the first derivative, we now have to imagine a 0 in the place of x. We don't write this, we just think this. That means that that second term will fall away, and we are only left with the first derivative. And that is it for this question. In the next part of the question, it now says specifically, find the first derivative. We know that is what that little apostrophe means. If f of x is given. Now, the first thing that we need to do is we need to change this equation into the correct format so that we can apply the first derivative rule or the shortcut. So the notation is important. We are not doing the first derivative yet. So we are keeping f of x. The third we can get rid of, or the cube root, by dividing the exponent with that 3 on the outside. So we just divided the 2 with that exponent. Then any x's that are in the denominators, they need to move up. And when an exponent moves from the bottom upwards, then their signs need to change. And then we've got pi square. Now you have to remember that pi square is not a variable. It is a known numerical value. So when we do the first derivative rule, we got to treat that as a constant number. And again, this is asking us to do the first derivative in terms of x. So now that we've gotten rid of the third and we've brought all the x's in the denominators upwards, we can apply the rule. So this next step would now be the first derivative. So for the first derivative, we are going to take the exponent and multiply it with the coefficient. So that's going to give us 2 over 3x. And then we also subtract 1 from the exponents after that. So that's going to leave us with negative a third. Then again, the exponent is going to multiply with the coefficient. So that's going to give us a positive 15x. And then we subtract another 1 from the exponents. So that leaves us with negative 6. And then the last term is only a constant number, and that falls away once we apply the rule. Now, the last step here is to make sure that your exponents are always left in positive form. So the first problem is the negative a third, and then the second problem is negative 6. So for the first term, we already have a fraction. So this x to the power of negative a third is going to move to the bottom, and it will become x to the power of a third, and it joins the 3 in the denominator. So we are not creating a new fraction, it joins the denominator of the current fraction, and then the x to the power of negative 6, that is going to move below the line, and then it becomes x to the power of 6. The next question, still part of question 3, gives us a diagram below. It gives us f of x, and we can see that that's an exponential graph that tell us that coordinate A lies on the graph, and then f and g are symmetrical about the line y equals x. So if they are symmetrical about this line, it also means that they are the inverse of one another. So that is something that we need to keep in mind. So the first part of this question says determine the value of p. P is in the equation of f of x. So if we rewrite the equation, we've got y equals p to the power of x. To solve p, we need to sub something into x and y. That means that we are looking for a coordinate because a coordinate consists of an x and a y value. So let's sub that in. So in y, we're going to sub in 25 over 9. And then in x, we are going to sub in 2. And then to get p alone, we'll just do the square root on the other side. And we can pop this into the calculator. And then p is going to be 5 over 3. So this question did not ask us for the equation of f of x, so we can leave the answer like this. The next part of the question asks us to determine the equation of g. Now we've said that g is the inverse of f, and the equation of f we now have as 5 over 3, everything to the power of x. For the inverse, x and y need to swap places. That means we're going to have x equals 5 over 3 to the power of y. And then to get this in the correct format, because y always needs to be alone in the equation of functions, we're going to use logs. So I always say to myself, the exponent equals log of the base number and then the value on the other side of the equal sign. So it is log, or the exponent equals log of the base number and then the number on the other side of the equal sign. And there we go. That is g of x. Then they ask us to write down the domain and range. So we got to do the domain and range of f. It is an exponential graph, so the domain is just going to be x is an element of real numbers. And then for the range, we can use the equation to double check. So in this equation, there is no q value, which actually means that the q is equal to 0. That is usually where we find the asymptote. And if q is 0, then it also means that the asymptote is on the x-axis, or the x-axis is the asymptote. The equation of the x-axis is y equals 0. And we can very clearly see that the red graph of x lies above this. So when we write this, there are two ways of writing it. We can say y is greater than 0. We do not include 0, so we're not going to write an equal below the inequality because a graph is never equal to its asymptote. The other way of writing it is that it goes from 0 to positive infinity. Both of these are round brackets. We cannot include 0, and because infinity is not an actual number, we cannot include infinity either. The next part of this question then tells us that h is formed if the graph of f is moved 2 units to the right. Write down the equation of h of x. So, at the moment, we know that the graph of f is this. Then I think of my number line. So, for my number line, I've got left and right. Left goes towards the negative side of the number line, and right goes towards the positive side. So we are shifting 2 units to the positive side of the x-axis or the number line when this movement happens. If it's a positive shift, then in the equation, we will indicate it as a negative movement for the x's. So any x-axis movement from left to right is always written next to x in the equation. If it's a positive movement, we just write it with a negative in the equation. And then the last thing asks, what is the equation of the asymptote of h? So again, as I mentioned before, the asymptote is the q value. In this case, we do not have a q value. So then the asymptote is going to be at 0.